what?
So when are you going to be leaving for Europe?
On the 7th of October.
7th of October? Where in Germany do you normally stay?
Normally in Berlin. That's been my base.
Yeah, I've been there. I like it very much.
Yeah. When were you?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Living Arts. I'm your host, Jackie Suarez. I have a very special guest this evening, Mr. Ray Blue, world-renowned jazz musician, saxophonist. He is a Peekskill native, and it's with great pleasure that I am introducing you to Ray Blue. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jackie. Pleasure
How are
to be
you?
here. Good.
So, you are a Peekskill native.
That's right.
You went to school locally, and you started your musical career here. So why don't you give us a little background on how you got started in the music business?
In the music business, well, I started playing when I was 8. At that time, there was public education for music in Peekskill, and we started in summer school, and started on clarinet, and then into junior high school, I added the bass clarinet.
Okay.
Then I wanted to play in the jazz band, and I didn't hear my voice on the clarinet playing jazz, so I moved over to the tenor saxophone when I
Okay.
was 14, and that's been a passion ever since. So saxophone and bass clarinet was my instruments in high school.
Okay, so after you finished high school, did you further your education with music, or did you start to perform professionally at that point?
Oh, I actually started performing when I was 15.
Really? Where?
Yeah, locally.
Okay.
Oh yeah, locally. Had a band. We started a band when I was in high school, and we played for dances, and we would we would have performances at the night school. The teachers would bring us in and gave us opportunities to sport our wares, if you may. And then at that time also there were venues. There were many venues, and even for underage players. And we were able to, with our parents' supervision, much of the time, we were able to play a lot. Actually, we did. And so that was my sophomore, junior, and senior year. Last two and a half years of high school. And then I went to college. I was offered music scholarships, and I decided I wanted to learn some other things as well. So I studied sociology, social psych, and went to William Penn University in Iowa, and then graduate school at the University of Iowa. I got my graduate degree in clinical social work. And while I was in grad school, I began to study more. Music was clear to me that I really wanted to play as well. So I did. I began to study more, and I came home and got into the studying and the loop of playing, and it just moved on.
Okay, what was the music scene in Peekskill like at that time?
At that time, well, there was live music in many of the venues, even the bars, and there were a lot of dances. There were youth centers in different communities around here. So there were always places for young musicians to play.
Okay. Are there any restaurants or any places or clubs that are still open at this time that were open when you first started out?
Up here, no. No, there aren't any. The whole scene changed. There was live music in every club, and there were in Peekskill itself. Let me see. There was the Melody Inn. There was Green's Lounge. There was Granberries. There was Bunches. There was Club 6, and that's 5. That's 5 of the places there. And then we had the canteen. We had youth centers. There were dances there. There was the youth center on Park Street at the AME Zion Church. It was open for dances every Saturday night for us. So there were places for us to go. And then musically, we played at the Peekskill Dude Ranch a lot. There were places at Mahopac, one place called the Sugar Bowl. There was, the Zigzag out in Carmel and other places. I can't remember all of them. But schools had dances, and they had live bands. That was pre-disco.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was plenty of opportunity for us to really work at our craft. And some of us moved on and continued to work at playing professionally, and some still, and others didn't. But that's what I did.
So what did your band look like at that time, or what were some of the other instruments that were?
Well, the band. It's interesting you're asking me this. Our band was called the Soul Sextet.
Okay.
And there were actually 5 of us, but it started out with six singers and a 4-piece band behind us, and it evolved into a group of, it was piano, bass, drums, saxophone, and a lead vocalist. And and so we played the popular cover tunes that were of the time, the Motown things and the Stax record things and Tamla record tunes, and yeah.
Okay. So after that period is when you went off to school and you got into sociology and so forth, and you went to get your graduate's degree.
Yeah.
Take us through, what happened after that, because I know you've traveled through Europe for quite some time.
Well, I came back and I started working as a social worker. I had a family, and I worked in mental health. First at the VA, inpatient. Then I worked at Phelps in the outpatient community mental health. And after a couple of years, I resigned and I started setting up my own programming in special act school districts and diagnostic treatment centers, etc., for music therapy. I created a music therapy program. As a matter of fact, I set up the first music program at the Abbott School.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I did those things and was playing, and I did that until the recession hit, and this is the Jimmy Carter era.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant the most recent recession.
That's another story here, but we're still dealing with that. But what I did was, since my children were still young, I took another job in social work.
Okay.
And but it was cool because I've always went with 2 resumes. And fortunately, the administrations always allowed me, if I needed to go out on the road, they'd let me.
Terrific.
So yeah, and so I was able on my lunch hours. I would practice. And, some of my colleagues didn't like it, but you know how that goes. But I had a lot of support, And one of the trips I took was to Macau. We played the Macau Jazz Festival.
And where was that?
That's about 1 hour from Hong Kong by boat.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was at the Abbott School, the Graham School at the time, and the superintendent said, you go, and let's bring back some reports.
Well, that's terrific. Jazz being such an American genre of music, I'm always surprised to see that people in Europe and further east have been so involved in our jazz scene. What are some of the things when you're traveling that strike you most about their love of jazz, or how they're following the music scene here in America? Well,
it's interestingly different now. Okay, at one point, it sounded very American because they were learning from us. They were, it's our art form, and then we shared it, and they began to learn it. From our people, and then then after a while, they meaning people in other countries, they began to put it into their own educational system.
Okay.
It's a shared art form. As all art is shared, and now they have their own version of it. In Europe, in particular, I'll speak of. When I went to Europe in 2000, there was a movement coming around called Euro Jazz.
Really?
Yeah, and that was kind of interesting to me because I didn't know they grew any cotton in Europe, you know, the jazz piece came from. But it basically means that it was their interpretation of how the music is played. And we have to remember that the indigenous music of Europe, of Europeans, is classical.
Okay.
Okay, the indigenous music of America is jazz.
Right.
So their conception of how rhythms work, and that's basically what, as I see it, you know, the largest emphasis with the music has to do with rhythm. You know, how the rhythms are played and felt and interpreted, and how we hear the drum.
Okay.
Okay, and Europeans hear the drum.
Slightly differently?
Yeah, on the one.
Okay.
You know, and we do our thing on the 2 and the 4. Even though the stronger beats are 1 and 3, we feel it on the 2 and the 4, which
Okay.
gives it another swagger.
Got
know?
you.
And the music is also based on triplets. See, the single unit in our music is not 1; it's 3.
Okay. Now explain a little more about that.
Well, it's universal. You have positive, negative, and neutral in electricity. If either one of them are not there, it doesn't work.
Okay.
And the same with music. You have the 1, the 4, and the 5.
Okay.
Okay, you have the father, the mother, and the child. And if any of them is missing, you don't have a complete family. So
Okay.
that's something different.
So this would be, I guess, on the percussion side of it.
Well, it's on the rhythmic side of it.
Okay.
Because there's rhythm inside of all of it. And then the sense of the quarter note triplet. Okay, that sense of 3, ba, da, 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 da. That's inside of each beat. And that's
Right.
what gives us our sense of the swing, that feel, not
Okay.
the march. We
Right,
have-
which would be more, I guess, on the classical side
Yeah.
because it's,
Yeah.
okay.
And people ask me a lot, they say, well, which is better? Isn't this, isn't that? No, there is no better. It just is.
Right, music is music.
It is what it is, yeah.
Now, I read a little bit about, and I've also experienced how jazz, well, I wouldn't say was born of blues or born from blues, but that's the basis
Yeah.
of how it began. Do you want to give us a little idea about what your take on that is?
Well,
How you incorporate blues into
oh,
your
sure.
music?
Well, jazz is the grand or great grandchild of the blues. There's blues inside of all of our, you know, there's blues inside of jazz. That's where it evolved from. And excuse me, and prior to that, it's the spiritual music. Our music is rooted in spirituality and the blues.
Okay.
And from there, we evolved into what we have now. you know,
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you have founded the Cross-Cultural Connection.
Yes.
Why don't you tell our audience what that is? And, well, go ahead.
Okay, Cross Cultural Connection we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and our mission is to promote jazz culture, education, and performance. And we link and partner with schools, colleges, and communities. The organization was founded actually years ago, but the name was put on it about 8 years ago.
Okay.
And I've been fortunate to have an opportunity to travel to and perform in many different countries, and bringing people together from different cultures. And as you know, my center with the whole thing is around jazz.
Okay.
And so we have people from different cultures coming together to perform and to play. And the key to the whole thing is that people relate and they communicate to one another. And the primary issue with anything is resolution, be it music or be it between individuals or people. We have to resolve things so that we are able to carry on and continue to communicate.
Okay, so give me an idea of what some of your programs would be like in a school or a university.
Okay, in the school, okay, I'll work backwards. We have a program inside of CCC called the Pro-Am Ensemble. And what it is we bring students and professional musicians together. The professionals are clinicians and mentors. And we have workshops and rehearsals, and we do it collectively. and we prepare and rehearse and design the program for concerts, and we do it collectively. The students have an opportunity to work with more experienced and professional musicians for guidance, for mentorship, for support, you know, and for model, you know, so to speak. And and we all perform together. Okay. What it does, it breeds a sense of success and accomplishment. And success breeds more success. So the students that are involved have an opportunity to do something and perform on a level that they wouldn't do if it was just with their peers. And what we want them to do is to encourage their peers to become involved as well.
Okay, now jazz, the interest in jazz or the love of jazz isn't waning by any means. But do you find that going into the schools and various institutions is also keeping it alive?
Absolutely. We have to create audience. You know, whether it be players or just people who want to, who appreciate the music. Jazz used to be the popular music, and this was in the 40s, 30s and 40s. In the 50s, it moved towards rock and roll, rhythm and blues and rock and roll, and et cetera, et cetera. Young people, as we all did, we listened to the music that our parents had in the house. My parents were from the era where they had 78s, and we listened to jazz. You know, we listened to church music, but jazz was there. Okay. I'm listening, and I'm going to listen to some young people now. Well, their parents aren't playing much jazz at home. Now you can have it in school,
right?
But it's they'll do what they do in school, but then that's it. You know, it's not something they go home to. I went home to it, and when I was 13 years old, I joined the record club and started buying jazz albums.
What was the record club?
Columbia Record Club, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was in that too.
Yeah, 12 albums for 99 cents to start. And,
I did that as well.
Yeah.
I thought for a minute it was some type of other club, but you know, then they moved. You know, BMG and all these other clubs started doing the same thing.
Oh, see, now I don't know with all that. That's you know, that's another era.
Yeah, you know what's changed about that is the ability to download music onto iTunes.
Yeah.
And the internet has completely changed the way that we collect music or how we keep music.
Yeah.
You know, there's something, I like seeing my CDs. I like seeing that. There's something that's lost just turning on the computer and looking at a screen full of all the music that you have, because it almost doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
I like pulling out the information card. I like reading about it. I like reading about the artist. And it's just not the same for me.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I have vessels full of 33s, and I love reading the liner notes, you know, on the big album, you know, on the album cover. Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe when I was a kid, there was some. My mother had an extensive album collection, but tapes were the thing, and then, you know, before you know it, CDs are right around the corner.
Yeah.
Now, who would you say are some of your musical influences?
Oh, there are many. Well, I'll start here, and then I'll add on the others with the teachers I had. Vince Corzine, Jesse Johnson, some of my peers who were here. Well, all the music teachers I had growing up. You know, it was, like I said, it was Vince Corzine and Mr. Taviano, Mr. Schulman, Mr. Redioff. Then some of the other folks, well, Sonny Rollins and Hank Mobley and Duke Ellington and Count and Train and Charlie Parker and Coleman Hawkins, and Lester Young, Oscar Peterson, Art Tatum, and on and on and on. And, you know, there's so many. You know, they're all my heroes.
Okay.
They're all my musical heroes. You know. I've had the opportunity to meet Art Blakey, you know, and I would call one of his shows, and he invited me to his the Jazz Cultural Center, which was on 8th Avenue, And it was cool for the breakfast jam. It started at 3 a.m. and finished 9, 10 in the morning. You know, no alcohol in the
Oh,
place.
okay.
No alcohol in the place. You know, it was all health food. If you wanted anything else, you had to go outside, and then you weren't. You know, you didn't want to come in. You know, under the influence, because that wasn't what the scene was, and that was really cool. You know, Charles Davis, Ornette Coleman, Paul Jeffries. These are all guys I've studied with. And Sonny Chirac, and Arthur Blythe, and you can go on and on. You know, it's Patience Higgins. I recently passed away, Benny Powell.
You know what I would love to see? You're prepared to perform this evening.
Sure.
Your latest album has been Berries for Breakfast. I know you know some of the music is going to be from that latest CD. But I would just, I've seen you perform in downtown Peekskill.
Good.
So we want the viewers to see you as well. So what we're going to do is, I would like to, which songs will you be performing actually?
Well, tonight I think I'll do, well, from Berries and Blues, I'll do a ballad, Stella by Starlight.
Very good. So let's hear you. We're going to hear, actually I said that incorrectly, it wasn't Berries for Breakfast, it is Berries and Blues.
Okay.
Before.
Yeah.
So we're going to be having Mr. Ray Blue perform, and what we're going to do is have him perform, and it's from his album. His latest release is Berries and Blues. So we have Mr. Ray Blue. He's been performing throughout Peekskill and the downtown area. He's actually going to be traveling to Europe shortly. He performs extensively throughout Europe, Germany, Austria, Switzerland. And without further ado, we have Mr. Ray Blue.
Thank you.
That was terrific. Do you want to give our audience a little information, a little background on do you compose your own music?
Yes, I do.
Terrific. Why don't you give us a little information about the tune you're going to be playing, and we'll move forward from there.
Okay. Well, Stella is just a tune I love to play. I'm in love with ballads, and it's a pretty one. And so when I chose for the CD, I wanted to do a couple of classics. I did that one, and There's No Greater Love. The next tune I'll do is a tune I wrote. It was inspired by a trip I had made to South Africa, and I've been there a number of times, and I fell in love with that place as well. People ask me, one of my favorite places that I've ever been, and South Africa is one of them.
Oh, okay.
But it's a township song, and it has to do with people feeling a sense of self-respect and self-worth through work. You know, if you want to really debilitate a person's psychological stability, you take away the work, the ability to take care of their families. So this is a tune called Work.
Okay, so we'll start with the tune that you composed in South Africa.
Yeah.
Terrific. Well, that was absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Why don't you come and have a seat with us and give us some information about how to reach you.
Okay.
Okay. Now, give the audience your website and where you'll be performing soon.
Okay. My website is rayblue.com.
Rayblue.com.
www.rayblue.com.
Okay, and your email address as well.
You can reach me very easily at ray@rayblue.com.
Terrific. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure to finally sit down and talk to you.
Thank you very much for having me.
because I have seen you perform. And everyone can go to your website. Thanks so much for joining us.